The first thing I noticed was the smell, like wet metal and old cigarettes, drifting through my open car window even though I was doing 70 on a highway that had no other cars on it, and I remember thinking that smell didn't belong to any place I knew. And that was when the radio cut out mid-sentence, and the silence got so heavy it felt like pressure against my ears. I was driving west, past midnight, trying to make it through the state before sunrise, telling myself I'd rest when I crossed the line, because that's what I always did. Push a little farther, ignore the tiredness, ignore the way the road seemed to stretch longer the more I drove it. The highway was empty in a way that didn't feel peaceful. No headlights in my mirrors, no glow ahead, just my beams cutting a narrow tunnel through the dark. The trees on both sides leaned in like they were listening. Every mile marker felt familiar and wrong at the same time, like I had passed it already but couldn't remember when. When the radio went dead, I reached to tap it, then turned the knob, then hit scan, but nothing came back. No static, no hum, just dead air. I laughed once, nervous, because laughing felt safer than thinking about how quiet it was. That's when I saw the gas light blink on. I checked the dash. I should have had at least another hour of fuel. I told myself the gauge was acting up, but my stomach tightened anyway. The next sign came out of the darkness like it had been waiting for me. Gas 2 miles. The letters were faded and bent, like they'd been there a long time. I slowed without meaning to. 2 miles felt farther than it should have. The station appeared suddenly. A pool of yellow light in the black, sitting alone at the edge of the highway. No other buildings, no cars. Just one pump, one small office, and a buzzing fluorescent light that flickered like it was tired of staying on. As I pulled in, my headlights swept over the trees behind it, and for a second I thought I saw movement, something shifting back into the shadows. But when I looked again, there was nothing. The pump handle was cold and damp when I picked it up. The smell was stronger here, metal and smoke and something sour underneath. I started the pump and listened to the fuel rush in, the sound too loud in the quiet. The office door creaked open before I even finished, and a man stepped out. He was tall and thin, wearing a jacket that looked too big for him, like it belonged to someone else. His face was pale in the bad light, his eyes deep-set and dark. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Late night," he said, and his voice sounded rough, like he didn't use it much. "Yeah," I said. My mouth felt dry. "Long drive." He nodded slowly, watching me, not the pump. "Road keeps people longer than they plan," he said. "You heading far?" "Just passing through." He smiled again. "Everyone is." I finished pumping and put the handle back. I reached for my wallet, but he raised a hand. "Pay inside," he said. "Pump's old. Don't trust it." I didn't like the idea of going into that office, but I didn't like standing out there with him watching me either. I followed him inside. The air was stale and thick, like it hadn't been aired out in years. The shelves were mostly empty, dusty snacks with faded labels. A small TV sat on the counter, the screen dark. As he rang me up, I noticed something scratched into the counter, lines and shapes that didn't look like words. "You get much business?" I asked, mostly to break the silence. "Enough," he said. He slid the receipt toward me, his fingers lingering a second too long. "You should rest soon." "I will," I said, even though I hadn't planned to. He leaned closer. "Don't stop on the side of the road if you hear something." I froze. "Hear what?" He straightened, smile gone. "Nothing," he said. "Just saying." I left quickly, the bell over the door jangling too loud behind me. As I pulled back onto the highway, I checked my mirrors. The station was already fading behind me, the light swallowed by the dark. I told myself I was just tired. I turned the radio on again. Still nothing. 10 minutes later, I heard it. At first I thought it was wind, a low sound under the hum of the engine, but then it changed, rising and falling, almost like a voice carried from far away. I turned the radio off completely, heart pounding. The sound was still there, not outside, inside the car. It seemed to come from everywhere at once. I rolled down my window. The sound grew louder, clearer. It wasn't words, not exactly. More like whispering layered over itself. A dozen voices murmuring just out of reach of understanding. My hands tightened on the wheel. I told myself it was my imagination. The road noise, anything but what it felt like, which was someone leaning close, breathing just behind my ear. I sped up. The whispering rose with the speed, matching me, keeping pace. When I slowed, it slowed. Panic crept in, cold and sharp. I looked at the dash. The fuel gauge was dropping again, faster than it should. Another sign loomed ahead. Motel next exit. The relief was immediate and shameful. I took the exit without thinking, the road narrowing, the trees closing in. The motel sat at the end of a cracked driveway, a long, low building with a glowing vacancy sign that buzzed softly. A few rooms had lights on, no cars. The office was empty when I walked in, a bell on the counter coated in dust. I rang it once. The whispering had faded when I stopped the car, but the silence inside the office felt worse, thick and watchful. I rang again. A door behind the counter opened and a woman stepped out. She looked tired, older than I expected, her hair pulled back tight. Her eyes flicked to the door, then back to me. "You're late," she said, like it was an accusation. "I just need a room," I said. "For the night." She hesitated, then slid a key across the counter. "End room," she said. "Don't wander." "Is there something wrong?" I asked. She met my eyes, and for a moment I thought she might tell me. Instead, she shook her head. "Breakfast is at 6, she said, "if you're still here." The room smelled of damp carpet and old cleaner. I locked the door behind me and leaned against it, breathing hard. The bed looked untouched, the sheets tight and cold. I sat on the edge and listened. The whispering was gone. For the first time since the station, I felt like I could rest. I lay down without undressing. Sleep came fast and heavy, dragging me under. I woke to knocking. At first I thought it was part of a dream, but then it came again, slow and deliberate. Knock, knock, knock. I sat up, heart racing. The clock glowed 3:17. "Who is it?" I called. No answer. The knocking came again, closer somehow, like it wasn't just at the door but inside the walls. I swung my legs off the bed and crept to the door, peering through the peephole. The hallway was empty. I opened the door a crack. Cold air rushed in. The lights in the hallway flickered, buzzing. I stepped out, looking left and right. Nothing. As I turned back, I saw it at the end of the hall. A shape, tall and thin, standing where the hallway ended and the darkness began. It didn't move. It didn't need to. I could feel it looking at me, even though I couldn't see a face. The lights flickered again, and it was closer. I ran back into the room and slammed the door, locking it, pushing the dresser in front of it. The whispering came back, louder now, filling the room, crawling under my skin. I pressed my hands over my ears, but it didn't help. The voices seemed to come from inside my head, overlapping, urgent, angry, pleading. I don't know how long I sat there. Eventually, exhaustion dragged me down again. When I woke, the room was bright with early morning light. The whispering was gone. The dresser was still against the door. I laughed shakily, telling myself it was a nightmare, stress, lack of sleep. I packed quickly and left the key on the counter. The office was empty again. The road looked normal in the daylight. Trees, sky, a few cars passing the other way. I drove for hours without stopping, the tension slowly easing. By the time the sun was high, I almost believed it was over. That's when I passed the gas station. Same one. Same flickering light. Same bent sign. My stomach dropped. I checked the mile marker. It was the same number I'd passed the night before. That shouldn't have been possible. I didn't stop. I couldn't. I kept driving, but the scenery didn't change. The same curve, The same stand of trees, over and over. The radio crackled to life, and for a split second I felt relief, until I realized it wasn't music or a voice from a station. It was whispering, clearer now, closer, like someone finally learned how to speak right into my ear. The fuel gauge dropped to empty. The engine sputtered and died, the car rolling to a stop on the shoulder. The whispering stopped all at once, leaving a silence so deep it rang. I sat there, hands shaking, afraid to move. Then I heard footsteps on gravel. I looked in the mirror. The tall man from the station was walking toward me, smiling that empty smile. Behind him, between the trees, shapes shifted, watching, waiting. I realized then that the road didn't keep people longer than they planned. It kept them until they learned how to listen. I don't remember getting out of the car. I don't remember what he said when he reached me. I only remember the feeling of stepping off the road, the trees closing in, the whispering rising one last time, welcoming me like I had finally come home. Sometimes, late at night, when everything is quiet, I can still hear the highway, and if I listen closely, beneath the hum of tires and wind, there's whispering, slow and patient, waiting for the next car to run low on gas.